a baby boomer and grew up with the Brady Bunch. Whenever I hear about Martha, Martha, I think about Marcia, Marcia. So it's all good. So welcome, friends. We're glad you're here today. So what's happening is Jesus is on the way to Jerusalem. And he's stopping by to see some special friends in his life in the little town of Bethany. And so he's gotten word, he stops in at the home of Mary and Martha. And he says, I've stopped in for dinner. And Martha just gets into a little whirlwind here. And Mary kind of is like, well, it's really nice to see you, Jesus. So I want us to think about what would we do if we got a phone call that Jesus was coming for dinner. So what we've got is two women, very different approach to life. The first is Martha. She's an ESTJ, perfectionist. Everything has to be just right. She's going to prepare the meal, get the house cleaned up. And then there's Mary, kind of the INFP, kind of up in the clouds, and oh, Jesus, it's just really nice to see you, and let's just talk a little bit, and then we'll eat later on. So we've got this dynamic going on between Mary and Martha. Martha wants to get things done, eat, and then kind of be done with things. Mary is just kind of like, let's just sit and enjoy Jesus' presence. The issue is that Martha's doing all this work and everything, and then she says to Jesus, who is their guest, Jesus, I'm tired of doing all this. Tell Mary she's got to start helping too. And we've all been through this kind of situation. And then Jesus says to Martha, 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 you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing, and that is being in the presence of me, of being in the presence of your guest, of being in the presence of Jesus. Think when we have special guests come for dinner. There's, of course, the meal and all the planning that takes place. But isn't it just as important the presence, the friend that we have invited to dinner, and to just simply have a conversation and catch up? I think what this story tells us is that in ministry, there's a time and place for both. There's a time for Martha's activism of getting things done. But then there is also the aspect of what I like to call Mary's reflectiveness, of just being present. Jesus comes daily to us and beckons us to sit at his feet as well. And then bound to Christ, we go out into the world, serving those who are disconnected, those who are broken, those who are lost. This is the blueprint of our ministry. So for today, we're going to have a presentation about our Appalachia Service Project to show where at times our group was in activism, but also times of reflectiveness, being with one another, being with all of the groups, being with the family that they helped. So we're going to start with Jim Rice. Jim Rice, who was the leader, we'll ask him to come up. He's going to come up to the lectern. He helped to lead the team. So come on up and let's show our love to Jim as he comes up. There's a lot of work and details that go on with this, and so Jim's going to tell us a little bit about the who, what, where, when, why, how. All right, Jim?
Good morning. So we had 9 of us that went to West Virginia, to Charleston this year. It was Christina and Rose, and it was Craig Sherman, Brian Cobb, myself, Luke Patarse, and Noah, I think he's back in the corner as well, Carter Persaki, and Mateo Short, who's right over there. So we were staying at Crossroads UMC, Methodist Church, and they actually had built a facility really designed to host groups, so it was a wonderful place to stay. They were very welcoming. And ASP assigned us a couple different projects. We worked on a house owned by Virginia who had a multi-generational family living under her roof. And so our assignments were to actually replace the roof with a metal roof and to replace a lot of the subfloor in the bathroom and hallway and actually throughout the house because they had a lot of water damage. So 2 adults and some rotating cast of characters were on the roof. Others were inside. Brian was leading the charge inside, and his job has always expanded beyond what was assigned, from a flooring job to a big plumbing job. So that's always fun. Unusually this time, we were actually in Charleston. Normally we are in a small town somewhere in Appalachia, and we are driving out into the country to visit a house and work on a house. This time we were in the suburbs of Charleston, so we had neighbors all around us. The house across the street looked like it was firebombed. It had been abandoned many years ago. House down the block was the same way. It was really a tough neighborhood, but we were happy to be able to work in it and to improve the facilities for the family. And that's kind of the highlight. We were there for a week. We got pretty much all of our work done. We finished up some work that the week before team didn't do a great job on, so our first day was a little slow. Then we got going. You get that with ASP sometimes. Not all the teams are as qualified as Doolin's team. And you learn things about the kids, the youth. We had a roof project, right? And so we had Luke, who's a pretty tall guy, and he had no interest in being on the roof at all. And Noah demanded to be on the roof. So we made them both happy. Luke never got there, and Noah spent all week on the roof. So I think it worked out well. And the homeowner, midway through the week, actually brought us all together at the end of the day and read us a poem she wrote about happy she was that ASP was at her house doing projects and working in her community. So that was really nice. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I think, to Luke.
First.
Oh,
So
Rose,
Rose
okay.
is here. She's going to come up. Rose is a senior. She's heading to Old Dominion University in Norfolk, and she's going to say a few words, and then we'll have we'll have Luke, all right?
Okay, so this is my second year doing ASP, and it's definitely different from my first year because, again, we're in Charleston, which is more of a urban area. But the family we worked with, their house, well, they had a trailer house, and you could tell they definitely needed our help. The floors were literally rotting, and the roof was not it didn't protect from the rain and the water very well. So it was really great to see that we could help a family that was very much in need of our help. And again, Jim said, they read us, Virginia read us a poem, and she was just expressing to us how grateful she was for all the work we did, and it was really sweet and touching. And that kind of reminded me why I was there. And it was just also really nice to see her grandchildren and play with them, and just they were normal kids just like us, and they deserved everything that we have. So it was nice helping them get that, or fix up their house so that it was up to standards.
Great, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rose. Let's show our love to Rose, absolutely. Now we're going to have Luke, the microphone's up here, Luke, the handheld, and Luke is going to help us with some, we're going to get those screenshots up for Luke and get you in here, and that'll be great, all right?
I'll stand right here. So my name is Luke. I was one of the youth/young adult members of our group this year going to ASP, and I guess I took a bunch of pictures, and we had a whole Google Photos album that was 174 pictures long. I selected 25 to show to you guys today, and I hope that you enjoy. So yes, next slide, please. So this is us on our way to Charleston, West Virginia. That's our van. On the right is Craig, and on the left is Jim. They really enjoyed eating their lime cookies. But this is just about when we were crossing into West Virginia, so you could see that the landscape was changing. We were in Appalachia. Next slide. As per tradition with ASP, we end up at Walmart almost every night. But at this particular Walmart, there was a beautiful sunset and a rainbow almost every single time we went. And actually, in this case, you can see there's actually a double rainbow here. And that was very faint on this picture, but on the top you can see that. And it was absolutely beautiful. So that was really a blessing to see. Next slide, please. If you actually turned around from the Walmart, there's a Lowe's behind us, and that's where you could actually see the sunset, and so that's a picture of that as well. Awesome, next slide. So as Jim was talking about, Craig and Noah spent most of the time at ASP actually on the roof. So as you can see there, they're having their epic superhero stance, and Noah's on the roof looking all cool, and Jim's like, yeah, I'm Superman. No, but they did a great job, and it was really awesome to see their work kind of unfold throughout the week, and that we actually got the whole roof done. So that was really something great to see. Awesome, next slide. So one funny thing about our worksite this year is that we didn't have an on-site bathroom. So down the road, we actually got to use the local volunteer fire department. We could kind of just waltz in and use their bathroom. But what was really awesome is some days they were there, they had a fire dog, and they were really welcoming and gracious to see us there. So it was kind of having the picture of the fire trucks was a cool part of the community as well. Next slide, please. So there's another shot of the roof. I think that's actually, is that Carter? Yes, that's Carter. And that's like kind of the crossover point between the sort of covering on the porch and getting the rest of the roof done. So that was a pretty tricky part, but I think we did a great job. So I'm really glad to see that work through. Awesome, next slide. So that's our work site. You know, just as we unfolded, normally we'd have a little tent over it, but we had 2 vans this time, so we were able to bring all of our equipment. And one great thing about our ASP project this year is that our group was small enough that we were actually all on the same site, so we really were connected a lot more than usual. But you know, having everybody on the site was pretty fun because we were very used to each other's company. Because usually when we have more people, we actually split the groups usually in half. So we have one site somewhere else and another site together. So this time, since we're all together, we were kind of working as a unit, which was great to see. Next slide, please. So there you go. All the youth got to operate power tools. I think we see them cutting the tin for the roof with some tin snips. And we actually we had to use all sorts of power tools, big circular saws, table saws, circ saws, everything from regular power tools like drills to big saws like that. So it was really exciting and a learning experience for everybody involved because there was some pretty crazy stuff we had to do. Next slide, I think the next slide is a picture of this. Yeah, so Noah actually did a great job about drawing out the flooring. This is actually I think this is the bathroom area. And we had some pretty crazy, or somewhere in the hall, we had some pretty crazy shapes we had to cut out of the flooring that we were putting in. I know I did a great job of getting all the measurements pretty much right on the first try every single time. It was great to see. But yeah, so as we were kind of putting this together, everybody kind of had to take a team effort and use all of our strengths and skills to work together. So that was great to see. Next slide, please. Again, you can see here Noah planning out the cuts with Brian and Carter, and they were a great team. They did a great job with that. Next slide, please. There you go. So we're very proud of this. There were a couple of vents in our flooring area. So we had to cut little holes and rectangles out of the flooring. And thanks to Noah's awesome work getting it measured and Brian's help with us learning how to use power tools and get everything working, we think we did a great job with that. And that was really exciting. Next slide, please. And there you go. You see Carter operating the saw here. Pretty fun stuff. Awesome. Next slide, please. Christina drew an awesome chalk ASP symbol, I think, during lunch at one point. I think it was just kind of a fun addition to our site to see and really helped add to the weekend. Next slide, please. There's another sunset at the Lowe's. I'm telling you, every single time we went, there was some crazy sunset. It was absolutely beautiful up in Appalachia. So if you've never been before, I definitely recommend that you hopefully can join us in our next ASP trip. Next slide, please. So that's Jim. That's part of the flooring that we had to take out in the hallway. I think a little bit got cut off, but you could see that there was actually a kind of gap under the floor, so we had to sister joist to this, support the floor, rebuild the whole layer as well. Awesome. Next slide, please. And there's Craig reinstalling the fan with Rose holding the light. I think, Craig, you did like an awesome little kind of job trying to get the fan fixed, and we kind of replaced some parts in there, got it working again, which was really awesome. Next slide, please. Some more cutting of flooring, OSB, and that's Brian and Christina in that picture. Next slide, please. And again, you can see Noah and Brian working together as the dream team for our flooring cutouts, and really, really happy to have them on our team. Next slide, please. There's Christina and I staying outside the Rand Fire Department. It was so fun to go there, honestly. That's one of the highlights of the trip. Next slide, please. These are our wonderful adult leaders. We have from left to right, Craig, Christina, Jim, and Brian. We really appreciate all the work they do for planning and helping us learn on this trip. Next slide, please. And that is Noah and Rose carrying the Luan, which is the kind of top cover on the flooring. So that's where we mount. That's how you kind of get the actual flooring to stick to the floor, because otherwise, if you mount on the regular flooring OSB, it doesn't really set quite right. So we had to also cut out these sheets to get the flooring just right for the house. Next slide, please. And this is another shot of Craig and Mateo on the roof. We had to all like kind of hoist these big tin pieces up on the roof, and they got them all screwed in and nailed in. So that was really awesome to have. Next slide, please. And there's Carter in addition to that, looking all cool in the sun. Next slide, please. And that's part of the Luan that we got in. We had to cut it around this little the kind of wall in the room. So there's some pretty complex measuring things that we had to do and accomplish. Next slide, please. And this was our group as well as our family. We were really blessed to have a family that was very active at our site. I think especially by the end of the trip, all the youth really got to connect with the youth that they had in the family. And really hearing the poem that Jim talked about as well from our homeowner was really, it really added to the sense of mission for our trip. And I think that it was really great that we had an impact. And I appreciate you listening and seeing our pictures, and I hope that we can continue this ministry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Also with that, we gave a donation to support purchasing a heater, a water heater for the family. So there were many ways that we supported them when we give thanks. So we're going to sing a hymn. It's, Oh Jesus, I Have Promised, and let's stand as we're able, and we'll sing this hymn together.